Interesting guest coming up shortly. We're going to be talking about food, what turns people on and off, particularly now. It's Valentine's Day. It's a big day for a lot of people who'll be sort of celebrating Valentine's Day. I'm sure they'll be going out for meals. We've got a relationship coach and behavioural psychologist expert who's going to give us a bit of an insight in terms of what turns people on and off going out for sort of meals. There's a long list of things. Who better to explain it than Jo Hemmings? Welcome to the show. Great to have you on board.
Hi, thank you. Nice to be here.
Great to speak to you, Jo. Where do we begin, Jo, in terms of the research? I mean, I suppose a lot of people listening in, it kind of resonates with them, sort of food turn-offs and on, but can you give us more of an insight in terms of the research and what it entails?
Yeah, so the research was done by Domino's, and it was really looking at what are those things that we like in a partner food-wise. It's not just sharing your taste in food, but kind of like habits around food, I guess. And also at the kind of icks, the turn-offs, the way people might eat, those kind of things. Because once you've kind of got one of those icks, I think that was from Love Island, wasn't it, back in the day, you just can't get through it. So it basically did research on what people like on a date or their partner and what people just really get turned off by.
Yeah, I suppose there's probably an individual thing too, Jo, in terms of some people. So if anyone's sort of listening in is feeling a bit self-conscious, I suppose it all depends on the person. But what are some of the things, Jo, what sort of some of the icks that people have?
It's things like eating with your mouth open, like having finger food, which is fine, but then licking your fingers rather than wiping them on a napkin. If people spitting food out, that's pretty revolting. Double dipping, right? So where you've got some sort of dip, like Domino's garlic and herb dip, you put your breadstick or dough ball in and put it in your mouth and then put it back in the dip again. People don't like that. So kind of it's also sort of being rude to waiting staff. That's a big turn off for me. I do not like it. Have been with people who've just treated people in restaurants like they're kind of their servants and at their command, and I just think that's a very unattractive look for somebody. Just says a lot about someone's values in life if they can treat people like that.
Absolutely, I completely concur with that, Jo. I mean, I think if I went out for a bite, somebody who displayed those list of behaviours, I don't think I'd be going back for a bite again with them again, really. But yeah, absolutely. And I suppose sort of like looking into the sort of to the research more. I mean, it's one. I suppose it's a hygienic thing too, isn't it? In terms of food, I mean, putting some food in dip and eating it, then sort of, putting it back in there. There is that element too. Do you think that comes into for some people in terms of, that sort of ick, really?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because in a way it sort of shouldn't be, because if you're on a romantic date and you think you might kiss that person afterwards, it doesn't really matter whether they've put their dough ball in their dip twice. But I think it's just, I don't know, it's just that feeling of courtesy and manners. On the plus side, there were things that people really like. Someone cooking you dinner, surprise date night out, someone buying you, then bringing you breakfast in bed. So all those considerations, ticked a lot of boxes for people. I suppose the eating badly, the licking the knife, all that sort of thing is like, it's inconsiderate. It's just sort of bad habits, and it's just not attractive. And I suppose we're drilling it right down to Valentine's Day. It becomes almost worse if you're going out for a significant meal with someone.
Absolutely. I suppose there's people listening in probably thinking, well, I won't do it on the first day of Valentine's Day, but the behaviours might become more apparent as they become more relaxed as well. I mean, it's one of them. Do you think as well, sort of, Jeff, sort of gone off piece a little bit, I know you sort of, you specialise in relationships. Do you think sometimes sort of in the beginning people kind of are aware of all this sort of thing, but after a bit they get, used to being with that person and then the sort of, these sort of habits come out?
Yeah, very much. I think people kind of generally tend to be on their best behaviour when they first meet someone, because they want to impress and they want to be liked, and then those old bad habits can sort of lapse quite easily. But then I think if you're in a relationship and someone is chewing very noisily or kind of eating with their mouth open or whatever it is, I think it's probably easier to say something. It's very difficult on a first date. You just kind of think, I don't want to see them again. But yeah, of course, people do go back into sort of lazy habits. I suppose it is really the kind of thing they might do when they're on their own, but probably shouldn't do in company.
Absolutely. And I suppose there's a lot of people listening in that will probably sort of might not go out for a meal. They might have a meal at home type thing. And do you find that having a meal at home for a lot of people, they've got the comfort of their own home, they can just sort of chill out as well, and it's a bit more of a relaxing environment, just sort of having a bite to eat at home, maybe ordering something in or making some themselves, yeah?
Over 50% in this Domino's research actually said they'd rather have a takeaway at home. And I sort of get it, because I think sometimes, it's a bit forced, Valentine's evening. I know some people love it, but, it is restaurants full of couples. And if you can do a takeaway at home, get your lighting right, turn it down, turn the telly off, turn your phones off, get a few candles lit, just create a bit of atmosphere and have a takeaway. I think that probably in some ways is more romantic for some people, because it's your own space and you can, be as free and as casual and whatever as you like, rather than feeling that slight pressure in, a candlelit restaurant that is literally probably only couples on Valentine's evening.
Absolutely, and different people got different ideas of sort of romance. I can't think of a better evening than ordering in a Domino's, watching the football, Jo. I mean, that for me is as good as it gets, really. You got a good game of football on. You get the
most romantic thing, Jimmy, is it, watching football?
Yeah.
Or is it? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you turn it into something romantic. But,
yeah. No, but it's a great night out. I mean, we mentioned sort of like romantic evenings, ordering stuff in, but it's true. I mean, I think I like the occasional Domino's myself. It's sort of you get the I think it's the veggie feast, and that's one of my favourite ones. And you order it in and you chill out. You got the game on, and there's a case for sort of like sometimes just sort of stopping in and ordering something in and just having a bit of me time. I mean, sort of going away from the conversation a bit. Do you think, but a lot of people just like having that kind of time to just relax? You
sound like you like your own company, actually, which is a good thing, because actually we spend a lot of time with ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we should
No, that's a great point. No, absolutely, that's a great point. I suppose it depends, really. I think it's one of them. It's sort of, I suppose I sort of, spend a lot of time with a lot of different people in different sort of professionally, personally. So I think that, I think it's one of them, Joe. It depends. If some people are quite extroverted, aren't they? They like to be around people, but I sort of tend to prefer to recharge the batteries, just having that sort of peace. If I go for a walk, there are times I like to go for a walk on my own just to process my thoughts.
I love it. I actually like my own company. I think partly because of the jobs that I do, that I deal with a lot of people.
Yeah, likewise.
Sometimes it's like just going to switch off with a glass of wine, take away and watch the telly. That's my ideal evening.
But that's a point too, just sort of on the topic of the conversation, in terms of, you mentioned there sort of going out, and I suppose that could be another thing too, not just the eating side, but then it can be magnified if someone is more sort of introverted and someone is more sort of extroverted too, in terms of that they're out there and they prefer to be out there all the time. Do you think that could maybe sort of like, there could be sort of like maybe an ick there as well, if someone is kind of, out there and want to be that life and soul in party, and maybe somebody else is just more, just prefers to sort of blend into the shadows type thing?
Well, I think it depends on the characters. As something opposites attract. People just fall into their ways. There's very often one person is more extrovert than the other. And it just depends on the chemistry, doesn't it, that you have with that person, and the way you feel about them and what you accept about them. These are all key things. But you say you're quite introverted, but you ask questions on a radio for a living. I'm quite introverted too. It's just, that's how we are. But I think you just buy into somebody else. Sometimes it's nice to have people that have got different characters that bring good things out in each other. The extrovert one will make the other one more sociable, and perhaps the less extrovert one will encourage that person to sort of stay at home a bit more and chill out. So it's very different for every couple, as you know.
Absolutely. No, I've often thought that I'm an introvert in an extrovert world. I mean, I think for sure, and I don't mind being around extrovert, and I don't mind getting out there and that sort of stuff, really. But it's just a question of recharging the batteries, having that sort of time to recharge the batteries and sort of process the thoughts. I obviously socialising good, but it's also good to have time as well.
If you're happy with the balance, that's what matters.
Yeah,
as long as you
100%.
feel like
100%.
not too much on your own, and you know that there are people around when you feel like you want to be with them, and
Yeah.
you know, it's getting, and that balance is different for everybody. So we can get very lazy, us introverts, and we can stay at home, not very much unless we're pushed into doing it, and probably enjoy it more than we think. So
absolutely. And is there, can you maybe offer any sort of tips for anyone listening in, Joe's thinking about Valentine's Day? Any sort of any sort of takeaways they can, any sort of thoughts that what can they do from a relationship?
Well, talking about Valentine's Day particularly, because it is tomorrow. I mean, do what you feel you both want to do and what feels right. Don't force yourself into going out if you want to stay in. Get a takeaway. Do something maybe that's just a little bit different to normal, if it means that you're not watching the telly, for example. So just, it's just another day, and it's if you want to be romantic, some people love it, some people don't, and I just don't feel the pressure to make it any different if or to go out for supper if that's not your thing.
Absolutely. I mean, the Champions League's back on again tomorrow, Joe. So, Champions League football's back on again. So, it's.
Why are you football? I actually think we need to have a separate chat up there, you and me, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, that's great. It's been great speaking to you, Joe. It's been really interesting, and no doubt the listeners. And I think that obviously, a bit of a joke as well, but have a bit of a laugh as well. But I think that there is a sort of, I suppose, a more, I wouldn't say serious side to it, but obviously there are things that get to. I think on a final note, sort of, I suppose if anyone's sort of listening in, it's just sort of being aware, if there is something that you do that the other person you're speaking to, is not sort of not keen on, it's sort of compromising, isn't it? If they're not sort of keen on something that gives them the ick, then I suppose it's communication, isn't it? We say, well, I'm not too keen on that type thing.
It's hard, though. I think it's difficult to say that to somebody. Actually, I think you either have to learn to tolerate it, or you kind of step away, because the problem with the icks are they start off quite small and they get really irritating really quickly.
No, absolutely, particularly if you're in.
It's a person that addresses somebody's kind of eating habits, to be fair.
Oh no, absolutely. I was thinking more along the lines if someone went into a restaurant and they started kind of, if they were like rude to the waiter or waitress type thing, and for me it'd sort of be like, that's
I think we should speak up in those circumstances, definitely, because it's unpleasant to be around somebody who is treating it.
And if they're that way with that person, you kind of think, well, they're, what
kind of person are they?
Yeah, precisely. But there we go. It's been interesting speaking to you, Jess. It's been great, and thanks for your time, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers, Jimmy. Thank you.